My name is Stephen Long, and I host a show here on Rock Candy called Sacred Tension, the podcast about the spiritual discipline of asking questions. We cover topics from LGBT issues to faith and doubt and mental health. We talk to biblical scholars and have conversations about religious abuse and leaving faith and finding it again. We also talk to pastors and skeptics and cult experts who are all sorting out their own journey of faith. Please join me in these conversations on Sacred Tension right here on Rock Candy.
Welcome to the 11T Life Podcast.
What is up, 11D family? Matt here, and I am so happy to be back with you. We had a couple weeks worth of break from the show just to sort of take care of some studio business. We've had a bunch of sessions come in, and we're also working on some brand new 11D7/Jelly whatever it is that I'm doing material, and those kinds of things take time and a really specific headspace to be in. So I apologize for not being with you guys for the past couple weeks. This past November 18th was my birthday, and I have to give a huge shout out to Emily Pye and the rest of the 11D family. We shared a nice video moment unboxing this whole project that Emily put together with all of the 11D family who were a part of that Facebook group. I cannot say enough nice things about all of you guys. I was blown away by this book of 11D memories and moments that you guys had, and all of these well wishes and poems. I don't know. It's just, I wish it's one of those moments that happens to you and you just hope that there are other people in the world who get to experience that daily, because if the rest of the world were experiencing the self-confidence that comes from being loved on that much by people, I feel like the world would be a better place. And I feel infinitely fortunate to have this group, to have this fan base, friend base, family, whatever you want to call it, but you're a part of it if you're listening to this show right now. And it's one of those rare treasures that people get in their time on this planet, and I feel just ridiculously fortunate to have it. So I hope that your holiday season is going well and that you are finding all the perfect gifts and spending some time going to your local mall, which is on its way out and may not be here in the next 5 or 6 years, and people watching, because malls are an amazing place to people watch, and there's a good chance that natural resource will not be with us much longer. So take advantage of it now while you can. Speaking of Christmas gifts, for those of you who are looking for them and you are part of the 11D family, head on over to the Rock Candy Recordings online store. If you love the kinds of things you hear on these podcasts, or want to support any of the art that we're creating, the music that we're creating, the shows that we're making, it's a great way to put a little bit of love not only into your friends and family's lives, but also into ours as well this holiday season. Today's episode is going to be amazing. I get to sit down with the one and only Jonathan Berlin. For those of you who have a vinyl of the new Rad Science or the re-release of our album Galactic Conquest, you have Jonathan to thank for that. He owns a vinyl pressing company called VRP down in Florida. He does an amazing job. He does amazing work. So he totally fits within the 11D Life universe. He is a critical part of the music that you guys get to enjoy. And I thought it would be awesome to have him on the show. We get to talk about so many different things. He also plays in a band, a psych pop outfit called Sunbears, which I'm a huge fan of. They make amazingly weird and wild and wonderful music. He also is a session guitarist and plays for another band called Johnny Swim, which is kind of blowing up right now. You guys have probably seen them around. They've probably been to your town recently this past fall. So yeah, Jonathan and I got to sit down, bro down, talk about Enneagrams, how he got into vinyl, coping with depression on tour, church drama, church versus copyright law, all kinds of really wonderful things. And we had such a great time. I had to split this show into a two-parter because it might just be too much to digest in one weekend. Yeah, we're going to get right into it. A huge thank you and high five to everybody who is following our band on Spotify, adding our songs to your favorite playlists. I cannot tell you how important that is for us and how much it matters and means to us just to be a part of your listening experience, to be part of your time here on the planet. Anyway, just a quick reminder that you are loved, that you matter, and if you're looking for a friend friend or somebody just as weird as you are, head on over to the 11D Live Facebook group. Yeah, find your new BFF just in time for the holiday season. Anyway, love you guys. I hope that you are staying super safe and bundled up this weekend. I am sitting here in anticipation of a giant snowstorm. It's supposed to be coming through our area, so I hope that you all are going to stay warm, watch a whole lot of Harry Potter, and eat a whole lot of foods that are really bad for you and that we're all going to have to run off this summer. Anyway, on with the show. Here we go.
All right, it's recording. Now, so if I laugh, oh yeah, I'm clipping, hold on. 1, 2, 3, hey. That's really funny. Okay, we're good. All right.
I'm going to make you clip again, Jonathan. You just wait.
All right.
What are you, is that KSM 32 you're talking into right there?
It's the 44.
Oh, it's 44. Okay, wow. Yeah. I'm pretty sure everybody at home listening to the podcast is going to be like, oh, damn it, not this again. Not mic models.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know very many mic models. Actually, I know a lot of numbers, but, it's like if I was tested, if you put pictures of the mic and then, a list of the model numbers, I would fail that test.
Yeah.
So I just kind of like, oh, what is that? Like a 414 or what do you know? I don't know. I just start throwing, and they're like, no, bro, it's an SM7. I don't know.
Yeah. There's, I've got some.
That's not my forte.
I've got some okay gaps in my knowledge. Like whenever I'm hanging out with people that just spend all of that. Well, I spend all of my time in a studio too. But like people who are working in like commercial studios and like they have this whole like running catalog of like different model numbers dating back to like the 50s and 60s. And they can tell you like, oh yeah, well that's actually the third iteration of that model that was originally introduced in 19. And I'm just like, I don't care. I really don't care. Either it sounds good or it doesn't. Like, let's make a record.
The microphone thing I have a story similar to that one. I was at a studio in Nashville. And I won't say what name it was, or which studio it was, but
it could be any of them. I was
at a studio in Nashville. It could be any of them, but I was there and they had a U47, I think.
Yeah.
And but it was like super old one. And so I was in there tracking a vocal and the assistant set the mic up for me, but he like had put it too low. And so I was like, I'll go ahead and, and I'll adjust the mic stand. And the engineer was just like, no, don't touch it. Do not touch it. He's like, this is one of the rarest mics in the world. I was like, a U47? He was like, yeah, like it's super old and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I mean, I can move the mic. He's like, do not touch the mic. I was like, all right, man.
So you were working on a record there.
Yeah.
Okay. So somebody's footing the bill for this. You are a label and he's telling you to not touch the microphone. But doesn't how good that microphone sounds depend on where you are around it?
Yeah, he just didn't want, he sent in the assistant who then raised the mic for me, which was cool, but also just seemed a little intense. Oh. It's not that I don't have respect for the gear, which I do, but also I'm just raising the height on a mic stand.
I mean, if you can't touch it, you have to be able to touch it to use it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I feel bad for you, but you know what? We have to move on. We have to move on from those experiences if we want to keep putting joy and color back in the world.
Yeah, it's a funny thing because that's all about like ego, and the guy just wanted to like tell me what to do. I don't know. Not to be dramatic, but it's like I've also done sessions at like Capitol Studios in LA, and there's Sinatra's RCA, and they're like, yeah, just move it around wherever you need it. And I'm like, okay.
You sure you don't want to put this in a museum before we use it, or what's going on?
That's right. Anyway,
that's cool. Well, dude, I love your studio space here. What is this called? Do you have a name for it?
Well, this is one of the rooms at Twin Hill Studio that my buddy Walter and I own. We're in Atlantic Beach, and this is my little room that I do mastering and songwriting and production in. And so, yeah, this is just my little room here. We have 3 rooms. We have a lathe room that's kind of the next room over, where we cut lacquers and stuff. And then we've got Studio A, which is got a tracking room and a control room and an ISO booth, 2 ISO booths. Yeah. So it's our little space.
I love that. It looks strikingly simple.
It's pretty simple. We're in a strip mall. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're in a strip mall here in Atlantic Beach, and it's just we built it out. There were no walls or anything.
Yeah.
And it's not very big. It's only like 2,000 square feet. But then Walter and I built it up. It took us about 2 months to build it all out and ourselves.
That's it?
Well, we had one other guy. We had one other crew that helped us put up some walls. And this was like my first go at really constructing anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't fully realize. So, like Walter and I are basically the superintendents of our own job.
Yeah.
And so we're like, I didn't realize how important it was that like studs are on center and like all of these things, because it's like, yeah, we'll just throw up some walls. But I didn't realize that all of that, once you get down the road and insulation is 18 or 24 inches and drywall is every 4 feet. And I was just like, oh my God. So it was kind of a nightmare. But then I was like pretty pissed because we hired this dude who was like a handyman contractor, and he didn't stop us at all from making any mistakes, which was kind of the reason why I hired him. I was like, I want somebody here that knows what they're doing. Yeah, it was pretty interesting, but we got it done. We had to take out a few studs and reinstall them, but we got it figured out.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. Well, it actually kind of sounds like maybe you and I were living parallel lives to some degree. At the beginning of this year, this space behind me was just a block basement. And so it took me about 2.5, 3 months to get everything to where I could like move all my music stuff into here. And, we have a small live room back there. I pretty much spend like my entire life down in this cave in front of a computer, fiddling knobs and playing with synthesizers and whatnot. So it's pretty cool that you guys have it as strip mall though. Is there a Chick-fil-A in that mall?
No, there is an Arby's across the street, which is nice.
I would be fat as shit if I worked there.
I do have to admit, I say there's an Arby's over there, which is nice, but I think I've only eaten there like a handful of times over the last few years. So we on this road that our studio's on, we're on Mayport Road here, and like all of the amazing ethnic dives are on this road.
Oh yeah.
So like the best pho, the best ramen, the best Thai, the best Mexican, the best Cuban food, like it's all on this road, and they're all just, you walk in there and you're like, I don't know about this place, and then it's amazing. So that's usually, we hit up something like that, and and it's always like super cheap. Like pho is like $6 a bowl, and so it's just like, and it's amazing.
What?
So that's usually what we do. We forego Arby's and get the pho.
That's awesome, dude. So are you a health nut? Are you like super conscious about what you put in your body, or are you like, yeah, I'll get there, but right now I'm just doing my thing?
No, I'm not a health nut. I don't freak out over food, about the kind of food I put into my body, but I do like to eat good, and I cook a lot. So yeah, I don't know. I don't eat a lot of fast food. It's honestly just, I guess I try to eat good. I don't know. I don't really I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, but I guess I do an okay job.
Yeah.
Oh, I just clipped the preamp. I'm going down one click.
Uh-oh.
Okay, there we go.
What's the so what is your setup like when you go into the studio? Like when I was building this place, I thought, look, I don't want anything between me and getting ideas down. So so for me that meant like being able to have all my synthesizers hooked up at one time. So if I just want to flip one on, cool, then I can just arm a track in Pro Tools and just start tracking. Are you more of like a guitar guy, or
not necessarily? That's probably like a third of what I do. I do a lot of keys. I use Reason a lot.
Okay.
That's kind of been my, it wasn't my main DAW when I started because it wasn't a DAW. It was just a rewire thing that, everyone was using. But now it's like a full-fledged DAW. And so most of the time I just use that, and for audio and everything. Like right now I'm capturing this audio in Reason, but and I don't know if that's just because, I don't know if it's the best. But it's what I like, and it seems to get the job done. So
it's all amazing now. I mean, have you noticed? It's 2018. Look around. Like,
I know, it's insane.
I feel like people get so bogged down into this debate, and for me, it's like, well, what are you fast in? What can you get the most amount of ideas down in the least amount of time, and go for that?
Yep.
And I love encouraging people to do that until they bring me session files that aren't Pro Tools. And then I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Well, yeah. Well, they don't know how to prep. And yeah, Reason definitely doesn't help you prep anything for a mix. It's pretty rough. And it's not intuitive. Like bussing and stuff is not ideal, but you figure it out.
Yeah.
My mix prep process is pretty intense, where I'm like, out of Reason, I'm like going and muting things, and it's just it's not easy.
So
I'm like, let me prep this file. It takes me about an hour.
Oh my gosh. So so mix prep, are you talking about like specifically for Sunbears stuff or just clients or like?
Yeah, I mean, either. It's like in regard to mix prep, it just, I don't know. And I don't think I do things right either. And so I know how a mix engineer wants to get files, but I also don't like to spend brain power. And maybe this is me being lazy, but I also don't like to spend brain power being like, now make sure that this is bussed correctly. And is this routing right? I just want to like throw up a channel and throw a reverb on an insert and just go, so I don't know.
Does that drive Jeremy bonkers if he's working with you?
Jeremy Griffith, no, we've got a good system. Like I said, I don't send him things that are whack anymore. I used to.
Yeah.
But like I said, now I just sit down and I dry up the vocals, and then I send a wet, then I bounce a wet version of the vocals, and I do all this stuff. It takes me a little bit of time, but I don't ever send him stuff that's out of whack anymore. Because it used to all just, everything was wet. Everything was all processed. And he was like, I mean, I don't know. Do you even want me to mix this? And I'm like, yeah, bro, that's why we're here.
That totally
but
sounds
those days
like
are
him.
behind us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so fun. That's cool, man. So what are you working on right now besides me?
Well, today I've been mastering mostly this week. I'm starting a session tomorrow on guitars for this worship record with a producer in California. His name's Jeremy Edwardson.
Okay.
And I'm not entirely sure what artist it's for. I think it's for a church. But yeah, so I'm starting on that in the morning, and he just sent me over those files today and getting that set up. And then, but aside from that, Monday and yesterday I was mastering a couple projects, and then today I finished a master on a new Sunbears song. So,
dude, that's
gonna
awesome.
Be coming out soon. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
When I was talking to you a few days ago, were you like just getting off tour or just flying back home or something? Or
I mean, I've been out playing guitar with this band called Johnny Swim.
Yeah,
I've been out with them basically since the middle of June.
Oh my gosh.
It's been kind of bonkers.
Yeah.
We had a couple weeks off here and there, but they've the time off got filled up with other things. So it's just been basically balls to the wall since the middle of June. And I got back from tour a couple weeks ago, and then Abner, who's Abner and Amanda, they're Johnny Swim.
Yeah.
He was like, they're trying to finish their record right now. And so I got back from tour, and then he was like, I need you to come back to LA and let's work on the record and write a couple more songs. And so then I went right back to LA for a week.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I got back on Sunday and getting back, and now I'm finally getting back into the swing of being home.
So this is I've probably said this before on the podcast. My favorite thing about touring is literally just playing shows. I kind of enjoy sound check when everyone's having a good time, but I just enjoy, I just miss the playing shows part. I don't miss anything around it. Making a flight, lugging your stuff around the airport, having to talk to the third guy who's like, you play guitar? Nope. I just tote this thing around the airport for my cardiovascular health. So they're there's all that kind of stuff. Do you like it?
I love to travel.
Okay.
I try to make it, I will say I do struggle with getting depressed on the road, especially for a long period of time, because
what does that look like for you?
Well, it's super easy to stay up late, stay up till 4 or 5 in the morning.
Yeah.
And then especially if you're on a bus and you don't have the responsibility of driving, or getting from A to B, you just roll off the bus in time for sound check. And so if I let myself get into that habit of staying up till 4 or 5 and then getting off the bus at 2 p.m. to walk in for sound check and then doing sound check for an hour, and then we're eating dinner, and then doors are open, and then we play the show, and then I'm back on the bus watching movies by myself in the lounge until 5 a.m. And it just becomes this like cycle of, it just gets kind of lonely when I let myself do that. I get kind of depressed, and I get a little bit like, I'm living the dream, but I'm not living my dream. And I get like all in my head and weird. And so I know that about myself. And I'm pretty open about it with the other people on the road, whether it's Abner or the other guys in the band. And I'm just like, guys, hey, if you see me getting into that rut, please just don't let me, because I'll just let myself get into that rut. And, like, let's go to bed early. Let's get off the bus at 9 a.m. Let's go find a coffee shop. Let's go see the site. Let's go do the thing. Let's get out and take pictures. Let's be together and live a little while we're on the road.
Let's go do normal people shit and try to make this like an everyday experience.
Right. Like we're in Memphis. What's the coolest thing about Memphis? Like nearby, what can we go see that's dope? So we'll try and get off the bus early and try and be a little bit normal and not get into that. Because it just feels like you never see the light of day.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
When and that's weird. So I do love to travel. I do love to meet new people. But the one thing that I do struggle with is just staying up really late and sleeping all day. And that's the one thing that if I let myself get into that place, then it's not good.
What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst moment that could lead you to, or maybe has in the past where you're like, oh, this shit's got to stop?
I'll get into a thing where I basically don't let myself. I'm basically busy all the time when normal people are awake. Yeah. So I'm super busy, and my relationship with my wife suffers a little bit because I'll wake up and step off the bus at 2 p.m. and I'm immediately have to work and I can't talk to her. And so then I'm busy most of the time. And the same thing goes with my kids. So I'll miss on FaceTiming them and talking to them, and then by the time I'm free, it's the middle of the night and they're asleep. So there's been times where I've let like a week lapse and I haven't talked to them, and I'm just getting bummed. And I don't know, it's a weird thing, but it never really manifests itself in other ways. Sometimes we'll swing through Denver and I'll get like some pot, and then I'll just be smoking weed on the bus until 5 a.m. But that's about like as intense as it gets. It's not too, I don't get out of control or anything. I just get sad. So
yes. I feel like as much as I hate to admit it, I'm kind of a sunshine sucker. Like, because I spend so much time in the studio because I love having minimal distractions. But if I don't go outside and get some of that vitamin D, or just like take notice that the world is still spinning, like it really does start to wear on you after a while. I can totally relate to that.
I mean, I've had work come in where I've taken on, too many projects, whether I'm mastering a couple records one week, and then I'm also supposed to be tracking guitars on this record and doing keys on this record, and I'll just start burning the midnight oil, and I never leave this place. And even though I'm only like 5 minutes away from my house, but when does it end? It feels weird. I'll look back and I'll be like, I haven't had a day off in 4 weeks, and that's pretty weird. And I'm not talking about like normal days. I'll hear friends be like, I haven't had a day off in 2 weeks. And I'm not saying that serving tables is not difficult, because I couldn't do it. But like they have like a regular like 8-hour shift or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm getting like 5 or 6 hours of sleep. I'm seeing no one. I'm working so hard. And it's all weird because I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting in this chair mostly. Yeah. And it's all just up here, and I'm just like mentally drained weeks at a time. Yeah.
You also said something a little bit earlier that I can totally relate to, which is like when you think about somebody being gone, like, and on tour, you think, oh, well, they're playing shows. So, maybe an hour before the show, during the show, maybe an hour after the show. And that is probably the farthest thing from the truth that you could get in terms of like being able to be on the phone with your loved ones or with your wife or spouse or whoever it might be. It is like eerie how when you're gone and you're on tour, it literally does feel like there is no good time to get on the phone and have a conversation. People are always around. There's always something happening, or it's just too loud. Like,
Yeah.
or it would be weird if you left because, everybody needs you to be there for some conversation that's taking place or
That's right.
Yeah, it's nutso.
Yeah. I'm thankful that Maria has spent time with me on the road. My wife, Maria, she spent time with me on the road. And so she understands what it's like. And she's like super chill. And so I'm grateful to have her, and because she's really easygoing with it, even in that, that time where it was like those few times where I've let a week lapse, she'll just be like, hey, it's time to hit the reset button. We got to like get back on the same page.
Yeah.
And it's not like she's not pissed, but she knows that things aren't great. So, hey, let's reset.
Yeah. And,
and then I'm thankful to have friends like, Jeremy Griffith. I get on the road and he's always giving me a hard time. Like, are you too busy to talk to me and stuff like that? And, but I know, like I'm grateful for him because I know that when I get back and I don't feel overwhelmed and super busy, that he's just going to be there. I mean, we've been friends for a long time and I don't want to take that for granted. Jeremy, if you're listening, I don't take you for granted.
This is probably the only other episode of 11ty Life that Jeremy's going to listen to. I guess I'm going to text him and be like, Jonathan came on the show, and he's going to be like, oh, do you talk about me? And he'll check it out.
But yeah, so, and most of my friends that I have close are that way too. And they understand. A lot of them are musicians or former musicians is a weird thing to say, but touring musicians.
Yeah.
So they get it. I'm lucky in that way.
So like, are you doing all of the record pressing and stuff like in this same 2,000 foot space that you're in right now?
No,
Okay.
we have, so yeah, Walter and I have the studio. It's called Twin Hills Studio.
Yeah.
So that's here, off Mayport Road, but down Mayport Road. Ooh, excuse me. Down Mayport Road.
Arby's.
It's like 2 minutes away. We've got the factory, and it's in about a 3,500 square foot space. It's not much bigger, but so yeah, we have another, and that's in like an industrial area. So it's a little bit of a different space.
Well, I promise that we'll get back to all the super fun, like weird human stuff. But like just out of my own curiosity, like how did you get started opening up a vinyl pressing plant? I feel like there are people here in Asheville that keep trying to make this happen. And to my knowledge, I haven't been able to kind of get something to the scale that you guys have. I think there might be some people that are sort of like etching records, in their garages and stuff. You guys have an amazing output of stuff that you do, and you did an incredible job on Rad Science. For everybody listening that has they got the Rad Science on vinyl. You guys just made that look beautiful. But how do you do that?
Well, so to start I guess I'll just start at the beginning. I'll try and give you a nutshell version of it.
Okay.
But at least I guess I don't have to. We'll just go long form.
Yeah. All the juicy deets.
Yeah. So I've always loved records. I grew up with records. My dad is a musician. Both of my parents are musicians.
Yeah.
And I grew up in Texas, in a little town called Gainesville, Texas. It's like 10,000 people. It's like a ranching town.
Yeah.
And, but they had a radio station there. It was an oldies station, 106.5 KXGM. And my dad was a oldies DJ there. And
oh, wow.
So I would go up there and watch him do his show. He had a show every night. So he wasn't particularly spinning records back then. I think they were just on a brand new, man, this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
If I think about it, it's actually pretty far out, but they were on a digital system. So there was a computer and he was DJing from a computer, which is really interesting now that I think about it, because this had to be 96, 97. That's pretty early.
Oh, wow. Like Hewlett Packard reigned supreme.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely like a Gateway or a Dell. I don't know.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know. But yeah, so anyways, he would DJ on that and I would watch him do his show. But I've always been around music and he had all of his records. And I remember my first time actually listening to a record, I was probably 5. And my dad pulled out this old, as a 7-inch floppy, and it was actually a Dick Clark 7-inch floppy, and he had some sort of like spoken word thing on it. And
I'm sorry, you said your dad pulled out like a 7-inch floppy.
That's right.
Dick, and then that's
Dick,
what I heard.
Yeah.
There's like any other form of words that you could have put together right there, but you just. Something Freudian in your mind, just put it together like that, I'm sure.
I mean, it's an everyday part of my life. I'm constantly dealing with inches.
Right.
In my line of work.
Yeah.
Now, did you want, because we can do a 5-inch if you want. We could do 7-inch, 5-inch, or we'll just go 10-inch, 12-inch.
Foot long.
What do you want?
So your dad pulls out this Dick Clark album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it was a 7-inch floppy, which I don't know if you're familiar with the floppy is, but basically it's an embossed piece of plastic. It's very thin.
Oh, like a flexi?
Yeah, like a flexi.
Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Wrong terminology. Here I am, the vinyl guy.
Remember
flexi.
what you do, Jonathan?
Well, we don't do flexis, but maybe one day. So yeah, he pulled this thing out, and we didn't have a record player at the time, but my dad was showing me this record, and I was like, wow, that's so crazy, because it had his picture on it.
Yeah.
And it was basically like a, projection film. It was kind of what it was like, a projector film.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, we didn't have a record player, but we had a Lazy Susan on the dining room table. And so my dad took a piece of paper, rolled it into a cone, put a sewing needle on the end, scotch taped it together. We, taped the flexi down on the table, spun the Lazy Susan, and he put this cone down on the record. And that was the first time I ever heard a record. And, Dick Clark's voice, and then the song that followed.
Oh, wow.
Came through this thing. And I was just like, what? This is insane. Like,
yeah.
And I was probably 6, and I was just like, this is unreal.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I heard records. And then I grew up around records. Dad was a DJ, among many other things, but he's also a DJ. And then I started collecting my own records as I got older and like into college and stuff, and buying new records. My grandparents gave me all of their old jazz records. So I have all these like Louis Prima albums and Sinatra albums and Miles Davis and all this kind of stuff. Lots of popular like standards jazz and stuff like that. But
right.
So my record collection started growing a lot. But then, I was also in bands. I had a band in my late teens called Bernard. We wanted to do a record, but records weren't really in then yet again. And so we were on a label called Floodgate. We wanted to do a vinyl, and they weren't into the idea, which, hey, I totally get it. It's expensive to do.
How do I know that name before? Did they put out anything by Cool Hand Luke at some point? Floodgate.
Yeah,
okay.
we were label mates. That's right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they had, they were like one of the cooler, it's like Tooth and Nail was like the super cool, popular, like Christian indie label. Yep. I air quotes with the Christian indie label thing.
Right.
And then there was like Floodgate, and those were like kind of the two labels that were really putting out cool, quasi-Christian, mostly positive. Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes it's a little dark and existential, but those were the two labels that were really putting out music like that. And that was back in like 2003, 2004.
Oh, okay, cool. This is like
maybe even earlier.
This would have been when now that I come to think of it, I probably heard your band on a Floodgate sampler that we got from somebody at a festival we played, like Cornerstone, North Carolina, maybe.
Well, yeah,
I'm like,
maybe so.
I'm trying to put all these like things together, but
yeah, we were on a couple of their samplers because they would do one like every year. But so yeah, that was a super cool label. They didn't want to do vinyl, which was fine. But yeah, that label was amazing. There was Cool Hand Luke, Denison Mars.
Was Number One Gun on that label?
Number One Gun was on there. Yeah. Who else? I'm not going to remember now, but lots of great. Oh, The Myriad. That was kind of that was probably their biggest act that they ended up having, was The Myriad. Okay. And yeah, we did a lot of touring with all of those bands, and kind of a crazy time. Anyway, no vinyl for us then.
Right.
And then
it totally didn't make any sense to have it back then either. I remember growing up, and it was like it was such a novelty thing that there were like maybe 10, 15 vinyl records in Hot Topic, and the people that and this is when I'm a teenager, so like what would I know? But we didn't have any friends that were super into it, and and the people that we knew that were buying vinyl, they weren't playing it on anything. Like they just thought it was a cool thing to put on their wall because nobody else would have it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't in yet. Yeah. And that band eventually broke up. It was kind of, I look back on it and it could have been so easily resolved.
You had conflict. I want to know about that.
Well, there was conflict. There was misunderstanding. I was
in a band? Say it ain't so.
Yeah. I was pretty high strung back then. So yeah, we just had like misunderstandings and miscommunications about money. And
yeah,
the band was like not making any money. And so I started personally financing the band, not really communicating well that I was doing that. And it just turned into this whole thing where everyone was like, why isn't there any money? And I was the one paying for everything. Why aren't we getting paid? We've been on the road for 6 months. It was like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it turned into, because I wasn't communicating well what was going on, it turned into them not trusting me and thinking that I was like stealing money or, it was honestly, it was just like a really shitty situation. But
yeah,
ego is such of a 22-year-old guy that when they came to me and said they had issues, I was like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to be best friends. You don't trust me. Well, for your information, I've been doing all this. But I was like, just like middle fingers in the air, like I'm out.
Oh yeah.
Which I look back on that. And if that was happening to me now, I would just be like, guys, no, like I would never, like, let's sit down and talk about it.
Yeah, but that's,
like I said,
let yourself feel that moment for a second though, because it's really complicated when you're approached about that. First of all, you're handling all of the stress that nobody else knows about because you have your own personal, like financial stresses happening, but then you're also in a band with these guys who are your friends and whenever there's an accusation like that, it's like not only do you feel like, well, gosh, but I've actually been paying for this and trying to shield you guys from all this bullshit. There's also the hurt that you experience by having your friends assume something like that about you, because it feels like they like the trust doesn't go two ways. That would have been the thing that hurt me in that situation.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's totally how I felt. And at the same time, I also like, in retrospect, of course, I don't blame them at all for coming to me and saying like, hey, what's going on? Like,
sure,
there's no money, blah, 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 blah. And, that was a major lesson for me. And I've actually never, ever let that happen again. And so like with Sunbears, and if anybody's coming and going with Sunbears playing with us, we go on the road. I have an Excel spreadsheet that everyone can see.
Yeah.
And everyone sees the guarantees, the doors, the back end deals, how much money we made, merch, what everybody's going to be getting paid, gas, like everything, like, and everyone can see it. And maybe that's too transparent. I don't know, but that's what I felt like I needed to do. And honestly, everybody's always been like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like I feel super respected and I don't know, taken care of, not that there's a lot of money to go around or anything like that. It's just like, everybody's like, cool.
Yeah.
And I set expectations low.
Because it's more about that trust and about that relational dynamic than it is about the money.
That's exactly right. So that band split up. It was a bummer. I wish it hadn't, because we were Floodgate was about to be bought by Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And become an imprint, which it did. But we broke up right before that. And we had just booked a tour with a band called Sleeping at Last.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to leave in like a month and go out for like 6 weeks with Sleeping at Last, which at the time that was like pretty hot situation. I know he's still doing a lot. He's doing a lot of music for Sync, and the Sleeping at Last stuff is so incredible. He's on this Enneagram trip now. You know about Enneagrams?
I absolutely know. I have been washed away in the Enneagram flood, as it were, very recently.
I think we all have.
Yes. But to me, okay, so I want to ask you about that, because for me with the Enneagram stuff, I feel like, this seems really intuitive, and this is really it's really interesting to kind of know these things about yourself. It's a great introspective practice to be able to be aware of what your qualities are and how you're coming across to people and what your strengths and weaknesses are. Because then that allows you, and some, knowledge is power, and you can pivot the way that you need to pivot.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, it's also kind of a pseudoscience. And you also have like people by nature want so badly to know about themselves that they're looking for purpose and meaning and explanation for who they are, why they are, what they are. And I feel like this is the most recent sort of thing that has legs that actually like it does feel like a positive thing on the surface.
Yeah, it does.
Like that. So how did you come across it?
A good friend of mine, her name is Lindsay Sweat. She's a songwriter and an artist in Nashville. I was in Nashville and we were out with, actually Jeremy Griffith was there. I guess this was about a year ago.
Yeah.
Jeremy and I were in Nashville working on a record, and we went out to get some drinks with my friend Brad Connolly and his girlfriend. Brad plays bass in Sunbears.
Okay.
And he's now playing bass with Johnny Swim.
Cool.
And then my friend Lindsay. So we were all just out at this place. I can't even remember the name of it, but she was asking me if I knew about Enneagram.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I've heard about it, but I hate personality tests and being involved with churches and stuff. They always want everybody to take a personality test. And,
yes.
Well, now you know that person is that thing, and whether it's like Myers-Briggs or whatever the test is, right? Now you know that about that person, so you know how to approach them better. And I'd always be like, this is so stupid. I don't care if that person is a high D, blah, 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 whatever,
An INFJ.
I don't care. I don't care. That gives them no permission to be an asshole.
Right.
Like, you still have to be a kind person. I don't care what any of this is.
Yes.
In my opinion, it's all BS. Everyone needs to be nice. I don't need to approach this person in a certain way because now I know this about their personality. Like, no, this is.
But you're having that conversation in Nashville too, Jonathan. Is that like? I know I'm going to get hate mail for this, but like, there's so many times where I feel like that's exactly what I remember about a lot of Nashville conversations is people saying, "Yeah, so and so's kind of a dick, but like yada yada," and I'm like, no, you can't. I can't just go through life being a shitty person to everyone around me and looking for any excuse, no matter how scientific, for it to be that way. I have to handle my own shit and get better.
Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Okay,
I'm just like, this is the thing that drives me crazy about those personality tests. And so my friend Lindsay was telling me about it. And so I was just like, I hate personality tests.
Yeah.
This is why, what I just said. And she was like, okay, but I think if you look into it, like do the test, look into it. And I think it'll like kind of weird you out because it kind of like reads your mail. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Rather than telling you things like, well, the test says I'm like this, and so I must be. And so I did it. She was funny because she was like, I think you're a challenger, which I think is an 8.
Okay.
I think you're a challenger. And I was like, I think, we had this whole, before I even took the test, she was like, I think you're an 8. And I was like, okay, well, what's an 8? And she was like, well, it's the challenger. And I was like, well, I think that people are challenged by me, but I don't go out of my way to challenge people, but I do think that people are sometimes just like, Berlin, he's a wild card. I don't know.
Yeah.
So they have challenges with me, but they're not, I'm not going after anybody. So anyways, I took the test. I'm curious, what's your number?
I ended up being a 6. Actually, I ended up being a counterphobic 6, what's referred to as a counterphobic 6.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what's the 6? I'm trying to remember.
The 6 is the, oh God, I'm gonna have to look it up. The Loyalist, maybe?
Loyalist? That sounds right.
Yeah. Yes, the Loyalist. I'm the Loyalist, and I'm counterphobic because I do a lot of things that are against my nature. That are against my nature because I hate feeling held down by expectation or fear. So like I'll do a lot of things that make me really afraid because I don't want to be controlled by that fear. So
yeah.
Which like in turn just makes me kind of an emotional wreck most of the time, because I'm just putting myself through fire.
You don't want to be controlled by fear, and then when you get fearful and you feel like you're making decisions on fear, you kind of you melt down. You're like, no, this shouldn't happen.
Oh yeah, or I'll do things that make me afraid. Like,
Okay.
yeah. But a lot of times I become overwhelmed with just the hum of the everyday life, like all the decision, a lot of stuff piles up in my brain. And when I should be getting it out and assigning it to things, it builds up over time. Yeah. But yeah, so you found out that you were an 8.
No, I'm not an 8. She said, I think you're an 8. And so, yeah. And so I took the test, and I took it on like 3 different platforms. I don't know, because she's like, you got to do it on these 3 different ones and like figure out which one, works for you, but they should all be the same.
Yeah.
And so I'm a 4 wing 5, which is the,
okay.
Yeah. The individualist and the investigator. So
that's great.
Which I guess together becomes, there's another word for it. It's not the bohemian. That's the other way. That's the 4 wing 3. There's another one. But anyway, there's another word for it. Yeah, Spider-Man. But yeah, so I was like super skeptical, and I really hate things like that. Like I said, I was at this church in Jacksonville for 8 years, and we did a few personality tests, and we'd be all in the room. We'd have like an off-site day. We're at somebody's house. We have catering, and we're all taking the test together.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting there and I'm going, so this question here, do I make decisions that blah, 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 whatever. And I rattle off the question. I'm like, so am I doing that like with me as an individual, or as me as the music director here at this church with a boss? and they're like, Berlin, just answer the question. And I'm like, well, I'm like, we're taking this at church. I'm trying to just understand what paradigm I'm answering the question. And they're just like, dude, just take the test.
Conform.
Yeah. So I take, I just clicked it again. I'm going down one more click.
Okay.
I take the Enneagram test, which if my wife knew we were talking about this right now, she'd just be so happy. She'll find out.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, I take the Enneagram test, and 4 wing 5. And the interesting thing about it is, I'm taking the test and I'm like, this is dumb. This is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. And then I get, the 4.
Yeah.
And so like one of the first things about the 4 is individualist, because I'm like taking the test and I'm like, I don't fit in a lane. I don't like to be told that I'm this kind of a person. I don't, blah, blah, blah. And so then I read this first paragraph. It's like the individualist doesn't like to be told what kind of person they are. Like, and I was just
so
like,
it starts reading your mail.
Shit. Yeah, immediately. And I was just like, okay, this is weird. So like, and then everything is just like pretty on the nose.
Yeah.
And also like things that I thought I disagreed with.
Yeah.
Like where it would say, a 4 wing 5 wears their emotions on their shirt sleeve, which I'm like, that's bullshit. I'm stoic as hell. Like no one knows what I'm feeling. And then I realized that like even on this last tour where I would get dark and I'd start feeling lonely, or I would get quiet or whatever. Yeah. Abner, he would be like, hey bro, you doing okay? And then I would be like, oh, I totally look bummed out right now. Everyone knows. And so, so apparently I do. And I have a pretty strong tell, but there's just interesting things like that. But I brought up the Enneagram because, and I can't remember the guy's name, but the dude from Sleeping at Last. Yeah. He has a podcast. Have you heard it?
I haven't.
Dude, it's pretty powerful. And it's all music based, and he'll do things like, this is the podcast for the Enneagram 4, for example. Yeah. He'll have written a song. He writes a song and records a song about Enneagram type 4. Okay. You listen to this song. It's beautiful. And then he goes into why he chose what instrument, why he chose this found sound sample that he recorded.
So it's like sound therapy almost.
Yeah, he breaks it all down, and then he'll have everybody that performed on the song as a 4, like all of this stuff. It's pretty interesting. So you should definitely check it out, and it's definitely like, I belong. I don't know. It's interesting.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So you kind of keep hinting at this weird sort of past life with church. So like you were a music director. Are you like where do you stand with the God thing right now? Like where are you at with that? Be complicated.
I can get real complicated real fast. But But I'll start slow. I've been involved at church most of my life. Like some of the first music that I ever played in front of people was at church with my dad. My dad played bass in our church band when we lived in Texas.
Yeah.
And he would just have me come sit on stage when I was like 10, and I had a little Squire Strat and a little, like, you remember the Strat pack?
Oh yeah,
that you could
the starter kit. Yeah.
So I had the Strat pack with like the worst solid state 5-watt amp ever. And anyway, so I would just sit up there with my Strat and my guitar, and I would just try to play along. No one could hear me. I wasn't in the house, but
Yeah.
I remember doing that and feeling like so insanely nervous.
Of course.
You know? But yeah, so that's some of my first experiences. And so I've always played music in the church, and it's been a long journey. Right now we're not, my wife and I aren't attending anywhere here in Jacksonville, but long story short, I played in churches. I played in churches professionally. I've played in churches just attending.
Yeah.
But there was this new church in town that I was a part of for about 8 years here in Jacksonville, called the Church of 1122. And when they were starting, they actually started as like a young adults group inside of another church.
Yeah.
And so they were going to be like the 20-somethings group. And they wanted to start this like cool, hip, young service. And so they needed a bunch of musicians. I wasn't attending the church. I was just a musician in town. And at that time, I was attending a Greek Orthodox church on Wednesday nights at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, I went pretty deep into it after I got into college and
Into Greek Orthodoxy.
Just into Orthodox Christianity.
Okay.
And that all started in college because I have a degree in philosophy. And so when I got into that, I was just like, the walls came tumbling down,
yeah.
Just the infrastructure of church history and all of that stuff. Just, my world was essentially shattered.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a thing. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to be a believer, which I desperately wanted to be, I want to go back to what I feel like is the most pure thing. And so I went back, I just started, turning the pages back, and then I got back to Orthodoxy, Orthodox Christianity. And so I was there attending for a while. I was trying really hard to become a member, but I was also a working musician. And so there was a little bit of a conflict of interest for them, not for me so much.
Sure.
So I would attend on Wednesday nights, but I would also play at this cool hip church on the west side
Right.
on Sunday. So, and get paid, which, professional musicians here in Jacksonville, or at least in the Southeast, it's a very big market. Like most churches are paying their musicians. If they're not, it's because they're either too small to, or they're too big to care to.
Yeah.
There are enough people go, they have enough people in their whatever.
So that's like how you started out.
Yeah.
Kind of in that sort of a situation, which I feel like is really relatable for a lot of people. I started playing music in church, and that was kind of my thing. How I started. You don't go now. Not
right now.
What happened in between then and now?
Well, I was at this church for about 8 years, and the last couple years just got really hairy. We just weren't seeing eye to eye on things. Me as the music director and just church leadership. I'm not even talking about my direct boss, who was like the worship leader, like head worship pastor.
Yeah.
We were chill. Of course, we had disagreements here and there, like any working relationship does.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they were all philosophical and all theological. And I was never going after anyone. Like I said, never going after anyone and their theology or what they're saying. It was just, they were going after me. I was never against the church, but the church was pretty against me.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I'm not a super negative guy, so I would just mainly just talk about the things that I was into. Whether if I believed in something theologically, I wouldn't say, well, everything else is wrong, but I would say, well, I think that this might be true.
Right.
Or even politically, like I remember when Romney and Obama were running for president.
Yeah.
Or Obama was running for re-election, and I never posted one bad thing about Mitt Romney or said anything bad about Mitt Romney, even though I wanted to. I voted for Obama, but I would be pretty outspoken, like, I love this about Obama, I love that about Obama. blah, blah, blah. And I would just talk about the things that I like. And then people would just be like, hey, we can't have you posting things like that. You're going to be leading worship on Sunday, having you post things like that, political things. People are arguing on your Facebook. People are arguing on your Twitter, just all this stuff. And I was just like, well, I'm not arguing with them. They're arguing amongst themselves. I just put out what I think is a great thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And they were just like, well, we need you to like stop doing that. Like you're encouraging people to go at each other. And I'm like, well, I'm really not. I'm just, this is how I feel about things, but people are going to do what they want to do. But so, yeah, honestly, that issue was a constant thing.
Of people feeling like because what it sounds like from the outside is a religious organization asking for a lot of overreach into your personal life that in any other situation would seem asinine for an employer to expect from someone who was working there.
That's right. And we would have these conversations and, he would say, leadership would say things like, well, we just need to make sure that you're like all in, and using words like all in and are you sold out? Why don't you have the church's bumper sticker on your car? Why don't you use the hashtag COE22? Yeah. Why don't you use, all of these things? And I would just be like, because I'm Jonathan Berlin, first of all. I don't know. I really don't worry about it too much. Like I'm here. I'm at the church. I'm here because I want to be here.
I'm not here to prop your thing up. I'm here to do my job.
Well, but also, I would prop it up. I would post about series that I was excited about. I would post about things that I loved about the church alongside all of these things. Like I said, I would post about the things that I was into and all of that stuff was together. And so that was the thing is you're posting about 1122, you're posting about these things, you're posting about Obama, you're posting about freedom of choice, you're posting about gay rights, you're posting, and all of this was together. Yeah. And that was the problem, So that was an ongoing issue kind of from the beginning, even though I didn't start playing there as someone who attended the church.
Yeah.
I was a single dude when I started playing there. I met my wife there. We got married there. We raised our family. We have a kid.
Ooh.
Was going to daycare there, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So like a big part of our lives, but it was about 6 years into the 8 years that we were there that things really started getting hairy and just lots of disagreements. We had some fallout over record contracts. We had some fallout relationally. We were doing a record and they really wanted to do this record. And I was like, great, let's do it. I produced it.
With the church
Jeremy Griffith.
You were doing? Okay.
Yeah, with the church. Yeah, we're doing a worship record. They wanted it to be all original songs. So me and everybody on the team just started writing songs for the church, playing them in church. We finish, we record the record. It's mixed, it's mastered, it's sent off to get duplicated. We're making vinyl.
Bravo.
Yeah, it's like we're part of what we do.
Yeah, that's great.
Part of my life. Like, hey, we own a record factory. We should make records. So just all of that stuff. The ball is moving in motion. Yeah. And they came back and they said, hey, we feel like we need to put a record contract in place. And I said,
after all of this stuff is done.
Yeah, after everything is done.
Who paid for all of it?
The church. The church paid for all of it.
But it's all a bunch of different people's intellectual property. If you have all these different songwriters and people in the studio, it's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and they financed it, which, we're talking, I've played on 100 albums.
Yeah.
I played guitar on 100 albums. I've signed, I don't know how many recording contracts. I've written 100 songs. It's like this. I'm a musician, like first and foremost in my life. They want to do a recording contract, and I was like, cool, yeah, no problem. Let's do it. I was like, let me know. I'd love to be a part of the conversation. Yeah. I'd love to help guide the hand. It's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
They decided to not include me and gave me like the first draft of the contract. The first draft was like basically that the church would own everything. The church would own the songs. The church would own publishing. The church would own everything. Yep. They were willing to, after the album recoups, disperse all of the profits back to the artists, which was cool. But I was just like, hey, first of all, thank you guys so much. I want to get together and talk about this. and maybe I can help explain how songwriting works, publishing works, all of this stuff. And then, maybe we can work out, let's get together and have a talk about it. Which all of that stuff, to someone who knows nothing about the record industry, even for people who know about the record industry, it's so whack.
Publishing especially. Yeah.
So it's super whack. And so I knew that this was going to be a tough conversation because they just wanted to all in, blanket, just do like a big catch-all contract. And then, but, I wanted to get together and be like, as a songwriter, I've had songs that I've worked on for other records that have been covered by other larger worship acts. And, and if I were to forfeit all of my publishing and songwriting, then that just goes to you, and it's not a part of this record, which is what this contract has to do with.
Yeah.
And so now that money just goes unaccounted for. So I just kind of laid it all out. I explained songwriting versus publishing, the life of a song, who songwriting and publishing, where that inherently lies, which is with the songwriter. Yep. I explain, mechanical royalties and producer royalties and artist royalties. And I explained all of this stuff, normal record stuff, which is a lot. It's a lot to explain.
So something that it seems like they may not have known hardly anything about.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's how I felt when I read the contract. I was like, okay, well, let me come and let's talk, and I'd love to talk through it and help explain some things.
Right. Not trying to insult their intelligence, but just be like, hey,
let me help.
Please. Yeah. This is not the kind of, this is not a typical thing you would put in front of somebody.
That's right. And we had a worship team of like 50 people.
Oh my God.
And so, yeah. And half of them are professional musicians and have made records before and know how records work. And so before anyone else saw it and became a big hubbub, I wanted to be like, let's talk about it. So we met. It didn't go well. They kind of just viewed me in opposition and interpreted what I was saying as I didn't want them to have control over a song that I've written because I want the money. But as you know, as an artist, so like the church wants to they're going to make 3,000 CDs and they're going to pay mechanicals on that.
Right.
Okay. So the song has 10, just easy math. The record has 10 songs on it per record. That means in mechanicals, we're talking about 91 cents per record would go out to per record manufacturer would go out in mechanicals. And that's split up among all of the songwriters on the album, which is a lot. Yeah. So we're talking about pennies on the dollar for 3,000 units that have been manufactured. Right. And so, 91 cents. So say $91 for 1,000 units times 3, we're talking about, $280 in total mechanical royalties. It's nothing. And so I know that, and I'm trying to explain it to them, but this conversation went on for about 3 months. And
oh my God.
It basically came to a head where I was there with the head pastor and I was there with the CFO and a couple other pastors, the COO of the church, and I'm just kind of explaining my whole deal. And they basically were like, well, here's the deal, Berlin, it's not up for negotiation. Like, you either sign it or the record's coming out. And I was like, well, I'm just telling you, I'm not going to sign it. But the reason why this record would not come out, it's going to go 2 steps back, because what you're offering is just unheard of. It's unheard of. It's not the way records work. It's not the way music works. And if I literally tell this story to anyone else, they're just going to be like, wow, that was insane. And so I'm trying to help you understand. And I'm trying to help bridge a gap and set up an infrastructure for you to do more records.
You can't be the only one. I mean, there's that many people involved in the creation of the record. You can't be the only one who's also going to find fault with it or problems with it.
Oh, no. Like I said, half the team would have been up in arms, so, but no one else knew about it. Cause I was keeping it chill.
Yeah.
Cause I didn't want everybody to
freak out,
get upset. Yeah. Long story short, there were some words passed back and forth. I got called some pretty rough things, and I basically excused myself from the meeting and I was like, you guys decide what you want to do and give me a call. And so they want to have another conference call. We got on the phone with their lawyer.
Oh my God, there's a lawyer involved now. Which maybe he should have been in the room from day one.
he should have. And also, part of what I had suggested was for them to get an entertainment lawyer. I was like, guys, honestly, this doesn't need to be longer than like an email or a memo.
Yeah. This
doesn't have to be a contract. This could be super basic. Just a memo or an email that everybody just replies and says, I understand and agree. And that would be fine.
Yeah.
So I suggested them getting with my entertainment lawyer, and they were just like, why would we go to your lawyer? It's just all this opposition, weird stuff.
Yeah.
So we got on the phone with his lawyer, and he was like, well, Jonathan, I want to hear what, his lawyer is like. He's like, I want to hear what you're wanting. And so I tell him, and I start rattling off all of this stuff. And he goes, well, and I'm paraphrasing, but essentially like, okay, well, I should let you know, I'm not an entertainment lawyer. So, I'm going to need to, I've taken down some notes, and I'm going to need to get with some colleagues of mine and I'll take a look at this.
Oh my God. So the church hired somebody who's not an entertainment lawyer, who's blowing through whatever retainer they probably have him on, like to consult with other lawyers who would actually know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, and that's all upper management stuff. Like, I don't know who their day-to-day lawyers are. I don't know, I don't know anything about that,
Sure.
But yeah, I think this guy was dealing with like more IP side of things and not entertainment, which IP is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And so then we get back on the phone, and he goes, all right, Jonathan, I've talked to everybody, and it seems like, what you're talking about is like, that's right on the nose. Like, that's how things are done. And this was a conference call, by the way. So like everybody that was in that meeting where it got crazy, like they're all on the phone too. And so we get off the phone together. He's like, I'm going to make these changes. I'm going to send them over. He sends them over within like an hour. Everything is good. We sign off on everything, and we got back together, and this is a greater conversation that we can talk about. But, we had a follow-up meeting, and I'm there with the pastor, and he and I had some choice words for each other in the previous meeting.
Oh no.
And he was just like, well, I want to talk to you after this. And I just wanted to like, hear from you after that meeting. And I was like, bro, if you don't go first, I'm probably quitting.
Wow.
Quite honestly.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay, well, I want to apologize about what I said. I want to apologize what happened. There was also an elder in the meeting with us, and we both said our thing. And then the elder said, I think what really happened here is it was a spirit of confusion entered the room. And
that won't hold up in court.
And I was just like, well, with all due respect, I don't liken it to confusion. I think everybody had their minds made up, and I think ego had a lot to do with it, and no one really wanted to listen to me. And I'm not here to say I told you so, and I'm not that guy, but what happened was for sure like some ego and just opposition.
Sure,
like,
yeah.
No one wanted to hear from me. And even from the beginning, when you guys came to me and said, we want to do a record contract, I was like, yeah, great. I think that's a great idea. Let's lay it all out. That can't hurt. Over communicate. Let's lay out all the terms.
Yeah.
I'd love to be a part of the conversation. No, no one wanted to hear from me. It was all after the fact. And so I was like, I appreciate the sentiment, but I don't think that there was any confusion. I don't think confusion had to do with it at all. And so that was kind of like one of the big last hurrahs. And after that, I actually stepped down as music director.
Okay, but because hold on. What happened?
Yeah.
After you express this to them, like when you say no, I'm actually not okay with us like whitewashing that moment. Like this was not confusion by my account. Then once the ball was in their court, how did they respond to that? Was it just like, okay, we'll agree to disagree, or did it get more heated, or?
No, it didn't get more heated. The whole meeting, I will say that whole meeting was very apologetic. It was very much like after I said that, the elder that was there, he was like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. And, our pastor was just like, I'm not here to argue about it anymore. Like, I just want to say, I'm sorry for what happened, and I want to move past it, And I was just like, okay, I'm down if that's the case. I met with our worship pastor after that, and I was just like, after everything that happened in these 3 months, and I feel like I need to step away from a leadership role. And this is after a few weeks after I was really thinking about what happened, because those few meetings happened like within 48 hours, like really fast. Phone call, meeting, and so like emotions were super high. But after a couple of weeks, I was like, I really feel like I just need to step back and just play guitar and sing and just take a back seat in leadership for a little bit. And I know that that's a pay cut, and I'm okay with that. But if you'll still have me, I just really think it would be best if I could just play.
Yeah.
For a little while.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. The worship pastor was fine with that. But then we had another scuffle after a couple weeks, where
what is it now?
He was unprepared for an event, and then when we had the event, he didn't have anything ready, and then he tried to throw it on me to like prep the track session and prep the lights and all this stuff, and which was a part of what I used to do. And he got frustrated with me, and he was like, you're unwilling to help, you bowed out, and he got all upset with me because I had stepped down in that moment, and he wasn't able to. It wasn't within his wheelhouse to do what I had been doing. Right. And that was a byproduct of me stepping down, which I didn't see. I didn't realize that would happen. And but also, like, he was like, dude, that's totally fine. He could have told me in that moment, bro, we got this event coming up in a month, and I don't know how to do it. I just need you to help me with that event. Can you ride this out for another month? Yeah. And I would have been like, dude, absolutely, I'm here to help. I love this church. I love this ministry. I want to do it. It was just a lot, dude. It was just a lot of stuff. But for lack of a better word, I got benched after that event because I was just like, dude, why? Because he was all upset with me. I was like, dude, why weren't you ready?
Oh man.
And because he was mad at me, and I kind of, mouthed off to him. But
aren't people so messy? Well, I mean, like, this is so. First of all, I just want to, like, you've laid a lot of information on me. I'm so sorry. No, it's good. But I'm going to slow down just for a second, because I know there are a ton of people listening that are like, what the hell is this, like, subculture of church and worship, and you guys get paid for leading worship, and like, why is this so complicated, and it sounds kind of icky and cultish, and these feel like weird things. So for anybody feeling like that, we could slow down for a second.
I haven't told this story very often.
I'm sorry this happened to you, Jonathan. It sounds really hurtful. It sounds like a hard thing to go through.
It was hard. I was trying to keep a level head through all of it, but at the same time, dude, it was super hard. And it was honestly really frightening, because at that point, I knew that we were coming to an end. I knew that it was coming to an end because we'd had the contract conversation. We'd had this scuffle. I got, for lack of a better word, I got benched after that event. And then I was like, okay, I can tell that this is the end, But yeah, I mean, dude, to say what you said, that's honestly all I chalk it up to. I know that people are messy. I try my hardest to not confuse what took place at that church with those people with God and what God wants or what I feel like God wants, or what he doesn't want, or I don't even know. That's a whole other thing. But I try not to confuse the two, people and God. I try to not confuse it. That's a question that I get asked a lot, even though I haven't told this story often, but when I have told it, people will say, well, so where do you stand with God on all of this after that?
Sure. That's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for being a part of it and for being a part of the conversation. If you have thoughts or concerns or questions or anything that you want to add to this story or to this conversation at all, head on over to the 11T Life Facebook group and feel free to talk about it. Love you guys, and we'll see you next week at Jonathan's Part 2.
11T Life is a production of Rock Candy Recordings and Rock Candy Media. Want more shows like this one? Get your shit together and subscribe to 11T Life